My name's Peter from Secura's IT, CSL IT. You do get to work on, I've worked on a couple of different projects in my graduate stream. The projects that I had to do were involving setting up the company with some software as a service type applications, and that ran the entire span of the project from initiation to completion. So I gained a huge amount of experience in IT project management and working on projects within the rotation that I did those two projects. So in answer to your question, yes, you do get to work on projects. It may not be every single rotation all the time, or some rotations may not have projects as such, but if it's anything like what I've done, you will get to work on them.
It is quite sort of open to what you want to do, and particularly around the streams, it's not sort of a set process of what rotations you do. So I worked in business analytics, marketing and medical affairs in my graduate program. I guess you do a lot of work with the brand team, so working on a key brand, how to launch that product, if it's already in the market, around marketing. Is that the sort of thing you wanted to know?
Yeah, I sort of looked at the description of the stream and sort of was extremely wide. So I was wondering how you would choose, or if you chose when you got in the program, or whether you were sort of directed depending on your experience and your degree.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Also around the needs of the business at the time. So the marketing department at the time had a few key projects going on. So that's the rotation I moved into after my first. So it really just depends on the needs of the business and also your own interests, which is really good. It's nice and flexible. And yeah, you work really in a lot of cross-functional teams. So even though you're in that department, you're really constantly liaising with the whole business.
Yeah, can I just reiterate that point? Just back to what Emily said, the rotations, there needs to be a balance between the business need and where you're wanting to go as well. So I think, yeah, that tends to work pretty well, and that way at least we get a good balance from both sides.
Yeah, and I think that also reinforces the point about working on real life projects that have real business impact, because you can't tell what could be happening in 6 months' time. So in some cases we do have an idea of some of the rotations, but that may change based on exactly what Emily and Silvana mentioned as well.
But definitely I have both a science and commerce background, and it was only helpful having both. Like, we are a business, but at the end of the day, what we're doing is marketing products, medicines, which you need to understand how they work, how doctors think, how the research is based. So having that background will only help. And I think there was another question quite similar, that you're constantly working with all these departments, and even within the commercial team, we've got a lot of interactions with the manufacturing site. So having that scientific understanding is really helpful, not essential. There've been grads that have just had business backgrounds, but it's a plus.
I think, day to day, I didn't really have any idea what to expect. So that was all, quite new for me. But I think, like, in terms of the social interactions, one of the biggest differences to what I was expecting was just how open everybody at CSL is to being approached, to giving you a bit of time or helping you out with questions, and this is folks at all levels as well. So, whether it was my direct manager or someone else I had to go to get help with something, everyone's just really willing to step in and help out there. And that's one of the things that made the transitions easier for me as well, whilst I was still getting my feet.
Okay, yep, that sounds good. It sounds like a really positive environment.
Mm.
And I think I can echo that for all grades. I think you're on now. I see grads coming going, this is not what I expected, in a good way. It's really hard to understand and know what it is you're going into and what that environment actually looks like. So I think just, you know, be really open-minded and know that you've got all the support and backing there to really ensure that you're set up for success.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Silvana.
So I think for the corporate grad, it's going to be a little bit different depending on the rotations. Like I know there's plans for a rotation through the communications department, and there I would imagine to be juggling a few different things at once. Whereas in other areas, it might be one bigger, longer term project that you're working with. It's a super collaborative environment though. It tends to be smaller teams who are all working together and cross-functional teams as well. So I would imagine be doing a lot of work with that kind of team. And then just depending on kind of what role you're in at the time, how many projects you were juggling.
I think it's like between commercial operations and R&D, this one. I can take R&D. So the R&D at Behring specifically, so we have our R&D arm, which is just CSL R&D, and they look at really early stage research. And I presume that they would work with what the market need is, while also doing their more broad research and looking at other targets of interest. When it reaches CSL Behring R&D, which is the group that the grad program will be part of, you're already looking at, you know, it could be scaling up a process. So it could be saying, okay, we have an idea of how to make this already, or we have a rough idea and now we're going to refine it, make it more robust, and scale it up. But it could also be R&D in the sense of developing analytical techniques. So that's how do we measure our proteins or our impurities of interest, and how do we measure them better? And so developing those sort of methods. But it could also be like, okay, we're currently manufacturing this product and we have for 10 years. How do we deal with manufacturing issues that come up? You know, for example, like a production engineer might work on a pump that breaks down, while R&D might come with a problem in the manufacturing facility that requires more of a protein science background to try and fix or work through or understand better. So I didn't really fully answer your question there, but I think the R&D in Behring is more established processes specific. Yeah.
Cool,
Silvana, I might add in there that, you know, at CSL we do both. We take new therapies to market, and we've had some big successes with our Afstil and Idelvion products in the last 10 years, and those are brand new recombinant therapies. But then also constantly refining current portfolios, and probably one of the most interesting is influenza. Every 6 months, we are putting a new vaccine formulation based on the new viruses circulating in the World Health Organization recommendations onto the market between the Northern and Southern hemispheres. And that is really new product development every 6 months.